Welcome, theatre addicts. My name is Fern, and I'm here at the Cultch today in the rain to see Awkward Hug by Corey Taber. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. As part of the 2018 Vancouver Fringe Festival. This show seems to be a reflection, it's quite loud of the cars, on his life when he was 19 and how his parents that were disabled affected parts of his life. So I expect it to be quite insightful and a unique perspective, unique stories. Probably a little bit sad, maybe a bit humorous. It seems to be quite an endearing show, so we'll check it out. It's quite rainy out here and there's not much cover, so I'm going to go in now and go and see the show. So it's after the show now and it didn't stop raining, so I've come back home for shelter, where it's actually cleared up a little bit. The show itself was incredible. I really enjoyed it. The Cultch is quite a big theatre, where you think that a one-man show that is basically just storytelling with no props and minimal lighting, minimal sound effects, and no background or set. You think that kind of show wouldn't be able to captivate an audience as big as what we had in that theatre, but Corey definitely does. He manages to maintain your attention throughout the whole time just through his way of storytelling. It's very compelling and very touching. The music and the lighting that he did use in the show was very well done. I felt that it really punctuated the scenes really well and brought you into the mood of the show, especially during the climax of the show, where he does sort of a dance in a way in this square of light, and that's just, it's mesmerizing, and it builds to this ending that's really amazing. I really enjoyed that part. I kind of had goosebumps. The themes that he explored were obviously how others treat disabled people and the systems that are in place, such as how disabled kids are treated in school and what housing that they're provided with, and there's quite a large thing about the transport that is provided for disabled people, and how his father always tried to make sure he didn't miss it, but you know, once he was waiting for a couple of hours for it, it seems that it's holding a mirror up to those systems and showing how lacking they are. I thought especially with his mention of his mother when his mother was back in school, because both of his parents have cerebral palsy, and how the teachers all commented on her lack of participation in class because she's shy and because she struggled. And I think that's very true, how little different personalities and different abilities are taken into account. I remember at school being so shy that I called in, well, I pretended to be sick one day so that my parents could call in sick, because I was going to do a science project that day in a group, and I just couldn't face talking to other people. So I think it's really important, you know, introverted kids and disabled kids, sometimes they're just brushed under the rug. So I think that was holding a mirror up to it, as well as just he talked about how when his mother sometimes has a fall and people just come over and swoop her up and don't ever really don't give her that chance to ask them for help, or more of, she just wants a minute to kind of process what's happened, and then they just kind of pull her up before she can even think of what's happened. I thought one part that was quite interesting is that his parents never told him what their disability was. He found it out when he was, I think it was 17 or 19, I can't remember if that was a flashback, through a newspaper article, and that was when he had to do his own research on what it actually is. And I thought that was really interesting. Sort of, I wonder what that choice was for the parents, if it was their way of normalizing it, if it was like making not a big deal, not making it a big deal. Yeah, I kind of wonder what was behind that choice, because I think that he found that he could see the difference between his parents and other parents enough already to know that it wasn't necessarily the norm. So I thought that part was quite interesting, and yeah, just an exploration of what was behind their choices to not tell him. So the whole story is basically this recollection of when his parents had to move and downgrade to a smaller house, which is where the kind of commentary on the housing systems for disabled people come in. But I thought that it was an interesting narrative, basic, to center all these other recollections and other flashbacks around, and stories about him and his girlfriend and just innocence and youth. Yeah, it was an interesting concept to kind of delve into these things that wouldn't seem like such a big deal to others. That was this such a huge stress and such a huge focus for his parents. Corey really handles the story well. He really is a great storyteller, and he's very bendy. He kind of prances around the stage, a bit like a show pony. But it's really captivating. I don't find that it draws your attention away, that he's too all over the shop. He's got very focused movements. Occasionally I felt that there were a few too many of these sort of long dramatic pauses for brevity of the situation that I think he must have got from his monologuing days from theatre school, where most of the time it adds the necessary feeling to the moment, but sometimes he would have these pauses just a bit too often where the actual story didn't really call for that. But I mean, that's nothing huge. I just thought sometimes it was a little superfluous, I guess. So there was one part that caused significant feelings in me, and those feelings were of fury. And that was the mouse story. He told the story about how he bought this mouse spontaneously in a pet shop for his girlfriend, who wasn't ready for it, whose mother didn't allow it, and so he ended up keeping it and then releasing it into the wild to die. And honestly, I hated the story so much, and the fact that they tried to buy a puppy and all of that. I just think this, it just, when he told the story about the neglect for his mom in school, the whole audience sort of groaned, but yet nobody sort of had that same reaction when he told this mouse story, which shows to me how rubbish the systems are in place for animals, that nobody even cares. Like, nobody had that same reaction, like, the system really needs to change, where you can just go into a pet shop and spontaneously buy an animal to look after who's reliant on you, but not be ready for it, not have planned for it. That just shouldn't be allowed. You can't, it's just like an animal that you have to be prepared for. If you're going into the pet shop buying the cage and buying all the things it needs, that means you don't know how to look after it, you haven't prepared, you haven't researched it, you're not ready. And it just made me so angry that they can just be like, spontaneous, let's go and buy ourselves an animal, and then just decide against it. And the fact that the girl never even thought about it afterwards. I just think that there needs to be a change to this kind of system where this could happen. The fact that they almost bought a puppy, and I'm sure he wouldn't have necessarily released the puppy into the wild, but I mean, like, what would people's reaction be if I just said, I just went to a third world country and bought myself a baby, but after 2 weeks I thought, this thing is an animal, it's a human, it can survive in the wild, we all do, and just released it into -20 weather in a forest. People would be outraged, but because it's a mouse, no one cares. And I don't know if he was supposed to instill this much of a reaction with that story, but I mean, obviously performance always causes you to feel things. But I just hated this. It really distracted me for the rest of the show, because age is no excuse. The fact that he could say, he was just a naive 19-year-old. I mean, 19, I would never have dreamed of doing something like that to my hamsters when I was 7. When I was 7, I had an army of hamsters, and one of my teachers asked to bring it into school, and I refused because I thought it would be too much stress for the hamsters with everyone pawing after it and, the school bell. So age is just not an excuse here. That part, that really infuriated me. So unfortunately, I feel like that's sort of the thing that I thought about most afterwards, and the rest but the show was great, really, it was. I really enjoyed it, and like I said before, it got a standing ovation. He is a fantastic storyteller, and the story itself is very sweet and funny and touching and thought-provoking, but this mouse part just really took over for me. So that was pretty much my review of Awkward Hug by Corey Tibert. I'm really bad at pronunciation of surnames that I can't pronounce. And it's at the Culture Theatre. Actually, the show that I saw was had an ASL interpreter, which I thought was amazing. She was lovely. She was really, really great in that show, and I thought that was an amazing addition. But otherwise, you can catch the show for its other dates. I'm not too sure if they have the ASL interpreter for all of them. You can check that out. Um, but yeah, it was a really beautiful show. He's such a good storyteller. He really captivates you. Like I said, there was there was a standing ovation. And if there's anything you can take away from it, is just give your mouse to someone who will love it. Don't just put it out into the wild or throw it out at the side of the road or whatever. Just find people who will love these animals. Give it to a shelter, which also needs to have better systems. But anyway, so thank you very much. I'm Fern, and check out the rest of our Theatre Addicts reviews on the website, and check out the YouTube channel and the Facebook page, and happy fringing!